Number 1. Lexus LS400. Imagine your Mercedes in the late 1980s. You've spent decades building the world's best luxury sedans. BMW is your biggest rival, your engineers are considered the best on earth, and life is good. Then one day, Toyota walks into the room with a Lexus. At first, the Germans laughed. Toyota? A luxury car? Yeah, right. The company that built Corollas and wanted to compete with the S-Class? Then the LS400 showed up and basically declared war on the entire European luxury car industry. Internally, the project was called F1, which stood for Flagship 1, and it had something that almost no engineering project gets: unlimited money. Around 1,400 engineers, over 2,000 technicians, and hundreds of designers worked on it for years. Toyota reportedly built around 450 prototypes, testing everything from high-speed stability to how quietly the doors closed. And they wanted perfection. The engineers spent months reducing vibrations that no one else even noticed. They redesigned engine mounts, improved aerodynamics, and fine-tuned the cabin until the 4.0-liter V8 became almost eerily quiet. There are famous demonstrations where people stacked champagne glasses on the hood while the engine was running. It wasn't just marketing, the car really was that smooth. Even details like the sound of the door closing and the feel of every switch were carefully engineered because Toyota wanted the car to feel expensive in every possible way. The LS400 debuted in America with build quality that rivaled, even exceeded the Mercedes S-Class, yet it cost thousands less. It was faster than many expected, packed with features, and unlike many European luxury cars at that time, it actually started every morning. Mercedes and BMW had built their reputations on engineering excellence. Suddenly, Toyota had beaten them at their own game and built a car that didn't have to visit the dealership every other month. Shockwaves spread across the entire industry. European manufacturers were forced to improve quality control, rethink manufacturing processes, and take Japanese luxury seriously for the first time. Lexus proved that world-class luxury wasn't exclusive to Germany anymore. Not bad for Toyota's first attempt. Number 2. Porsche Cayenne. It's the late 1990s. Porsche is building some of the greatest sports cars the world has ever seen. The 911 is an icon. The brand is respected by enthusiasts everywhere. There's just one problem. They're running out of money. Sports cars are incredible for building a reputation, but terrible for paying the bills. They're expensive to develop, sold in relatively small numbers, and the market isn't huge. Porsche needed something that could actually make money, and fast. So they built an SUV. The purists didn't like it, an off-road family SUV wearing the same badge as the 911. People genuinely believed Porsche had lost its mind. Forums exploded, magazines criticized the decision, and enthusiasts declared that the company had sold its soul. Then the Cayenne went on sale, and it sold very well. It turned out there were plenty of wealthy people who wanted a practical family car without giving up the prestige of owning a Porsche. The Cayenne offered space for kids, luggage, and groceries while still being far quicker and much more fun to drive than every other SUV on the market. Sure, it weighed over 2 tons, but it could attack corners with a level of confidence that embarrassed plenty of sports sedans. It proved that an SUV didn't have to drive like a floating living room. The Cayenne became an enormous financial success. Porsche wasn't struggling to survive anymore. It was printing money. These profits funded the development of future icons like the GT3, GT2, and countless generations of the 911. Today, almost every performance brand has followed the same blueprint. Lamborghini has the Urus, Ferrari has the Purosangue, Aston has the DBX. Even Lotus now builds an SUV. Without the Cayenne, there's a very real chance the Porsche we know today wouldn't exist. Number 3. Tesla Model S Plaid. The automotive world has always had one universal truth. If you wanted the fastest accelerating car on earth, you needed to spend 7 figures on an Italian exotic that required a team of engineers just to change the oil. However, in 2021, the Model S Plaid arrived looking like, well, a normal family sedan. 4 doors, 5 seats, enough trunk space for a Costco run, and a dashboard that looked like someone forgot to finish designing it. Yet this thing launched from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. Cars like Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, and Bugatti suddenly found themselves getting embarrassed at drag strips by something that could also take your kids to school. For decades, supercar manufacturers had been squeezing every last horsepower out of internal combustion engines. Bigger turbos, lighter materials, higher rev limits. Then Tesla showed up with 3 electric motors, instant torque, and skipped half the rulebook. For the price of a well-optioned luxury sedan, you could buy something capable of humiliating cars worth even 10 times as much in a straight line. Hypercar-level acceleration stopped being an exclusive club reserved for millionaires. That forced everyone to rethink the future. Legacy manufacturers suddenly realized they couldn't keep winning the raw speed war with gasoline alone. Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Ferrari, and nearly everyone else accelerated their own electric performance programs because ignoring Tesla was no longer an option. The Plaid also pushed another trend. Giant center screens replaced physical buttons, and Tesla doubled down by introducing the infamous yoke steering wheel, a design that looks horrible and makes simple things like parking feel awkward. Apparently making the steering wheel look like an Xbox controller is considered innovation. So, not every major car change was good, kids. Number 4. Audi Quattro. Before 1980, if you asked a rally engineer which drivetrain was fastest, the answer was obvious: rear-wheel drive. All-wheel drive was for tractors, military trucks, and vehicles that got stuck in mud. It was complicated and too heavy for serious racing. Then Audi came along and made everyone look stupid. The idea started when Audi tested the Volkswagen Iltis, a slow military off-roader. It barely had any horsepower, but on snow and ice, it kept beating far more powerful road cars, simply because all four wheels could put power to the ground. Instead of laughing it off, Audi's engineers had a thought. What if they put that drivetrain into a performance car? The result was the Audi Quattro. On paper, it looked almost ridiculous. A boxy coupe with permanent all-wheel drive, a turbocharged 5-cylinder engine, and extra weight that everyone assumed would slow it down. When it entered the World Rally Championship, the competition expected another interesting experiment. Instead, they witnessed absolute domination. On its debut at the 1981 Monte Carlo Rally, the pace was unbelievable. It won its first WRC event later that year. It launched out of corners while rear-wheel drive cars were still desperately searching for grip. The rest of the field suddenly looked like they were racing with half the available traction. Every manufacturer immediately realized they'd been playing the game wrong. Within a few years, teams that refused to adopt all-wheel drive simply couldn't compete anymore. Audi had completely changed the sport. Rivals like Peugeot, Lancia, Ford, and Toyota all started developing their own all-wheel drive monsters because there was no other choice. The Quattro's influence didn't stop at rallying. It helped convince the world that all-wheel drive wasn't just for bad weather. It could make performance cars faster, safer, and more capable on almost any surface. Today, high-performance AWD systems are everywhere, from supercars to hot hatches. Number 5, Toyota RAV4. Back in the early 1990s, if you wanted an SUV, your options were limited. Everything was enormous. SUVs were pickups with roofs. They sat on heavy truck frames, chugged fuel, rode like tractors, and were about as fun to park as an aircraft carrier. Cars were comfortable, SUVs were practical, and nobody questioned it. Then Toyota had a weird idea. What if an SUV wasn't actually an SUV? Instead of starting with a truck, they grabbed a few things from the Corolla, gave it more ground clearance, all-wheel drive, and enough rugged styling to make people feel adventurous without actually requiring them to climb a mountain. They even dropped in engines shared with cars like the Celica, making it feel far livelier than the truck-based SUVs of the time. The result was the first generation RAV4. It wasn't trying to tow a house or crawl over boulders. It simply gave people a high seating position and great visibility, everything they loved about SUVs, and kept the fuel economy, comfort, and easy driving manners of a compact hatchback. Instead of using the traditional body-on-frame construction found in trucks, the RAV4 used a unibody chassis like a normal passenger car that made it lighter, more efficient, safer, and significantly nicer to drive. At the time, it seemed like an odd compromise. Turns out, it was exactly what millions of people wanted. Other manufacturers quickly noticed. Honda launched the CR-V, Subaru doubled down on crossovers. Today, crossovers dominate the global car market, and nearly every best-selling vehicle owes at least a little bit to the path Toyota created in 1994. The RAV4 understood what people wanted an SUV to be. I'd say Toyota absolutely nailed it, like always. Number 6. Mercedes CLS. When designing a new luxury sedan, most manufacturers would focus on making the back seats bigger, improving comfort, or giving passengers more space. Mercedes had a different idea. What if we made it look cooler instead? That question gave us the first generation CLS. When Mercedes unveiled it in 2004, they didn't call it a sedan. They called it a 4-door coupe, which made absolutely no sense. For over 100 years, the definition of a coupe was simple: 2 doors. That's literally what separated it from a sedan. Mercedes looked at that definition, shrugged, and said, nah, we'll do our own thing. The recipe goes like this: take an E-Class, stretch it out, lower the roofline, give it aggressive styling, and suddenly you've created one of the best looking cars of the 2000s. The catch: that beautiful sloping roofline came at a cost. Rear headroom was noticeably worse, visibility wasn't great, and if you were taller than 5'8", you had to hunch over. The cabin felt much more enclosed than a traditional luxury sedan, which wasn't ideal if you happened to be claustrophobic. From a practical standpoint, it was objectively worse than the car it was based on.
We do not care.
But nobody cared, because it looked incredible. Mercedes had discovered something the rest of the industry hadn't fully realized yet. People were willing to sacrifice practicality if it meant their car looked significantly cooler. Almost overnight, the entire industry started copying the formula. BMW responded with the 6 Series Grand Coupe, Audi launched the A7, and Volkswagen introduced the CC. Mercedes convinced the world that 4 doors could still qualify as a coupe. It was one of the greatest branding moves in modern automotive history. Even today, people casually use the term 4-door coupe without questioning how ridiculous it actually sounds. Thanks for watching. Peace.